This game is only for the best of the best. I am Tom and this is Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys and girls. I thought this game was gonna be a pile of shit. Straight as that. Because Ubisoft games are no longer fun after 10 hours of gameplay, except for some Assassin's Creed games. But I was nicely surprised to see how well Rainbow Six Siege played. However, the game is only for a certain type of players, and you will see why that is in a second. Let's dive in. Now the game is nerve-wracking, it really is, and especially if you're on the defending side. And that's for the simple reason that almost everything can be destroyed. And I don't mean computers and vases on top of desks, I mean walls and floors, windows and doors. You are never safe, and this is a real deal breaker. Otherwise you could just sit in a corner and camp lines of sight while the enemy comes to you. Instead, the enemy throws down a breaching charge on the opposite side of the wall, brings down the house, and you with it. Now, the defending side can reinforce walls, so that can't happen, but there are still ways around that, which we'll get to in a minute. Now, for now though, you need to know that the defending side does really need to put their mind together and set up shop correctly in order to protect the objective and survive. Depending on the game mode, the attackers need to either defuse one of two bombs, extract a hostage, or capture a room in order to win. Killing the entire enemy team in any of the game modes will also do the trick. But do keep in mind that the enemy has 30 seconds to prepare before you roll up to the place. The attackers can however scout out the place in the meantime to locate the objectives, which are placed in random locations each round as well, so no strategy works 2 times in a row. You roll around in these remote RC cars as you spot the enemy and tag them, so you can plot and place yourself accordingly. Then you go in, and whatever happens next is up to you and your skill and your opponent's skill. And now we have arrived at the bread and butter of this game, the thing that keeps it all interesting, the operators. And lately almost every game has switched to a hero system where you can pick a character with specific abilities and weapons, and I like it. Now, in Rainbow Six Siege they are split up into 2 categories, the attackers and the defenders, and you can only pick one if you're an attacker or a defender. And even though I won't go over them all, I will say that there are more than enough to choose from. But what keeps it fresh is the fact that only one operator can be picked at a time. So if you quote unquote main one operator, there are still a chance that someone will pick it up before you and you will have to switch. It also denies all the shield squads to keep the rotation going, which I like. Now some operators are a must to pick and some are more optional to pick. Thermite, for instance, is an operator for the attackers who can use, you've guessed it, thermite, which allows them to go through the reinforced walls the defenders put up, which gives them a huge advantage because the defenders think that the wall is practically unbreakable. Then you have Jaeger for the defenders, who can mount 3 turrets that take out any grenades thrown into the room, which gives them a great advantage in case the grenades start spamming in. So it's advisable to pick some of these and coordinate with the team which others should pick. These operators and all the gear is unlocked not through levels, but through in-game cash. And granted, they unlock this at a fair rate, not too fast, not too slow. But the thing I really like is that the DLC operators can also be bought with in-game cash. Granted, a lot more cash, but after a large pool of games, you can buy them. And even though the game doesn't have a single player campaign, which I actually don't see fit for the first time ever, it does have some training missions which give you a large pool of cash to start with and buying the first operators with. Probably I should have done that before playing online. Now the game does have some negatives, and the first and major one is that you need to focus and coordinate extremely well at all times. The time to kill is uncanny, and that's why it's important that your team knows what they're doing. Voice chat is pretty much a must, because otherwise it comes down to blind luck to know where the enemy is. And in my experience I can tell you that it doesn't get you far. I advise teaming up with some friends, because I can tell you from my experience that communicating through text chat is not fast enough. You can also use the cameras, but a semi-competent attack team will always take those out as soon as they come past them. Also, because the time to kill is so extreme and the game is meant to be played seriously, I don't advise you to buy the game if you're just here to fuck around. Nobody I've come across really accepts it. Hell, I was kicked from my game because my game didn't load fast enough. And it took me some time to adjust to the gameplay as well. I thought walking while aiming down sights was tactical and slow enough, but that method you can just throw out the window, as you're never going to leave a firefight in that way. Camping is pretty much the only way to play as defender, as you sit down in a reinforced room with turrets and whatnot, waiting for the enemy to come to you. And if you're an attacker who just peeks their head through the wrong door at the wrong time, well, your game is pretty much over. Yep, simple as that. And you can go into spectating for the remainder of the round. Now, I get that it's pretty much the only way these things go in real life, but it isn't the way I want to play my games. If you like slow games with great realism, this surely is for you, but it sure as hell isn't for me. Now, Rainbow Six Siege is a great game, if, and this is a pretty big if, you like realism and slow tactical gameplay. The way that unlocks are done, in my opinion, are correct, and the operators are pretty damn awesome. But if you come here to run around and shoot things and watch things explode, I advise you to buy Titanfall 2 or Battlefield 1 instead. The online community is large and thriving, so no worries about that. In matter of fact, I never had to wait more than 5 seconds to fight a game. And combine that with pretty optimized graphics, you got a great combo. So with that said, I'll tell you that Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege is worth the money.